Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sunday Morning Coffee with Caryn. Hello. Sunday Morning Coffee with Caryn, episode 40, where we are going to be talking about forgiveness. And what that really means is to transmute or to alchemize your fear, anger, shame, sadness, any of the lower vibration feelings, emotions, to really turn those emotions into love. Because when you are in the loving space, you have that creation energy, you have the flow of the divine masculine and the divine feminine together, and you're able to really start using that neutralized energy that you have in your energy field from releasing all of the trauma that you've had in your life. When you go through the journey from moving from unconscious to conscious, when you go from, this is where you're usually going through therapy, if you've ever done that, or where you're at very least questioning your stories of origin, when you're questioning exactly who you are in this world and what it is you're capable of truly achieving in this world. And it's really important to remember that we are all here playing out some version of karma from thousands and thousands of lifetimes. And we're also playing out the quote unquote original sin. Now, I know that on Easter, I got pretty intensely Christ-like with y'all. And today is going to be not maybe as similar in the fact that we're not going to be talking about all the knowing of your worth and all of that, but really understanding that when we talk about being a projection, when we talk about being a hologram, it comes from this idea from the Kabbalion, which is one of my favorite hermetical texts, along with the Emerald Green Tablet. And they talk about how the all is mind and the universe is mental, meaning that we are still all encompassed within the all of creation. Like we are not actually separate from God, from Sophia, from Source. We are dreaming an illusion. We're dreaming this illusion that we're somehow separate from the oneness of all of creation. It's the reason why I have Shiva up, is because he represents actually the oneness of all creation. Oh, we persevere. We persevere is what we do. So when we're talking about this idea of being separate, it's this individuation of form. It's this real ability for us to recognize that we truly are our own unique frequencies once we separate ourselves from Source. So it can get really hard for people when you start recognizing that, to stay then grounded in your actual physical day-to-day life. And you can cause this separation, this chasm, because you are missing the point of all of the release of the trauma that you've had in your life. When you finally are able to recognize that your emotions are the bridge. Oh yeah, my entire computer just crashed, Chase. My entire computer just crashed, as it does when I'm talking that real intense energy. Hence why the cut and having to have like a little spice in it. It is what it is. So So when you're talking about magic and you're talking about your interconnected wovenness, much like Shiva here and his oneness with being the Lord of all creation, the tapestry itself that it's on is woven and tells a story, with him being down here standing on this troll demon, and all of his different things he's holding are all different aspects of who he is in his story. And Ma Durga on her tiger, sometimes it's a lion, and really just she represents like the Holy Mother, and she represents the ability to be a super mom and to really be a creator, warrior mother who goes out and gets shit done. Like literally the Beyonce song, you know, women who we birth the baby, then get back to business, right? Like that's exactly what we're dealing with. Oh, supercharged. Chase, I'm so sorry. Can we all just like have a moment of gratitude for Chase here? She lives in Australia. It is 2 in the morning where she is, almost 2:30 in the morning, and she still makes sure that she's here. Every week she sets an alarm, and I'm already like working with my conversation with time to make sure that I'm on time, which today I actually was like only 5 minutes behind, and then the computer has full on just turned off, like the whole computer. It's not just Facebook crashing, but my entire computer has now turned off twice, so I had to switch to the laptop, which is why you'll now see me glancing down, because that's where the comments are while the camera is still attached up here. Wow, okay, so let's just we persevere. We just persevere. It is what it is. So in your real life, when you are going through the process of transforming from someone who is, okay, I understand that I had, you're welcome. You are here, Chase. So awesome. That live stream was amazing. So when we are truly aware of the bigness of the picture, we can very often forget about the fact that we are still here to learn and teach frequency and form. It's one of the big questions that a lot of my clients ask me, who are like, okay, Caryn, well, if there are no victims, why should I teach my kids about like falling off cliffs or like basic safety and things like that, right? And it's because that's what you chose to do. Like once you made the first choice, that's when free agency completely took over. But there is this energetic guilt that we have from this quote unquote original sin, where this aspect of God, call it Christ if you want, Christ consciousness, was like, I wonder what it would be like to be separate. And just in that instant, caused a separation, and then had a choice between the Holy Spirit or the voice of God or source and the ego, and was like, okay, well, I'm going to go with the ego. Bam. And as soon as it made that choice, God is a memory, source is a memory, and now the voice of source is now a memory. And now the ego, the only way it can survive is in a physical plane of reality. It says, oh my gosh, you sinned against God, like he's going to smite you, and causes this fear and anxiety. So our root emotion is fear, which is why to conquer fear and to become fearless really takes true forgiveness of that original sin. Okay, the eating of the knowledge of the tree, eating of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The causation of duality. God is going to hurt you. There is a punishment. There is a judgment coming for you. You have something to be afraid of. Let's create this reality. And in that reality, you have free reign and freedom completely, and God can't get you there. And so we choose that. This is all literally happening instantaneously because time doesn't really exist. And bam, we have the Big Bang. And at that moment, free agency, all the other things you hear about, how you're this infinite being connected to the universe and you've lived 18 billion lifetimes and you've been on the Pleiades and you've been in Sirius and you've gone to the central sun, and all of those things are true. Like, we are in this illusion, this grand dream of an aspect of the all. So again, the all is mind and the universe is mental. And so if the universe is mental, then we can tap into Napoleon Hill's teaching of thoughts are things. So when we are existing in a spiritual sense and we understand that gravity of the fact that really everything we're doing in every single enlightenment is to get off the illusion of samsara. Okay, maybe you've got more of a Buddhist background. Karma exists because we ate of the tree, of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Is this landing? Does this, like, you can see the interwovenness, and there are, you know, the interwovenness that's going on here. Oh, there is a comment. Here we go. Oh no, there's not. Of all the different traditions when it comes to this aspect of there's good things and there's bad things, there's right and there's wrong, there's fear and there's love. And when we again start this journey that so many of us have been on, I've been at rock bottom, babe, okay? I understand what it's like to be pulling your hair out because of your children and because of your bills and because of your sex life and because of everything else that's going on, where you just don't understand why you're even in the purpose of living anymore. It's what started everything else for me. And then I recognized that storytelling is just the way that humans communicate. And then I started finding worth in my story, and I started sharing it, and I started using my inherent bossiness to start sharing my story and to just not give a fuck that this is who I am and this is what I stand for. And that was only 2 years ago. Like, my life has changed so much in 2 years, and the one piece that has always followed me has been the fact that I can forgive all of the things that happened to me prior. I can tell the story of what happened to me in my childhood, or the fact that I've very much played out that isolation separation game because I'm an only child. We live in the middle of a state where we weren't the main religion. We don't have any family around. I'm married to an only child who has a pretty dysfunctional background. We don't live anywhere near his family. I never really had a lot of friends. I always ostracized myself. All these things that used to hold so much emotion, where I would just start sobbing if I talked about it. The part that most people aren't talking about is what happens to that energy once you've released the trauma. Once you no longer have the story of the horrible thing that happened to you, what happens to that emotion, that fear, that anger, that guilt, that rage, the shame that you had attached to that story? What happens to that energy? And what happens is that it gets released into the ether, into the web of everyone else who's creating, and only those who are aware, who are super consciously aware of how to command that energy, are having any access to it. So you are doing all this healing and going through all this change and going through all this transformation, and then giving your energy away to other people just because you're too scared of what it means. You'd rather just release it and heal it and clear it than activate it and learn how to command it and control it, and to actually like make the changes in the world that would stop that sort of trauma happening to anybody else, which is what you actually truly want in life. I only attract those who are wanting to make big, massive change in the world. Those who have a big dream so big that it fucking terrifies them to think about. And then you watch me talk about it and you're like, shit, who are you and how do I work with you? Because I need that fearlessness. I command the energy that I've released over the years so well that I'm able to go back to different places in my childhood and call my power back through that timeline. That story no longer has any power over me. Thank you for holding that part of my life and holding that power, but I got this. I got me. There is no one and nothing that has any power over me. And that is because I forgave myself over and over and over again for making that choice. Because if I believe that I'm choosing every moment in my life as I do, and I believe every single one of you have chosen every single moment of your life, you were just choosing unconsciously. And now you've moved into choosing consciously, and you have all this like, oh, I cannot believe that I fucking made those choices. You have all this guilt and this shame over who you used to be, instead of recognizing that you couldn't be who you are without that part of your story. You can't be the person who's willing to push ahead and forge new territory and make a new path and be a way shower. Someone who's willing to take their process and be like, not only is this a process that has changed the lives of other people, but you are able to embody it fully and completely, saying, I take myself through my own creation on a regular basis because this is how I've learned to process this crazy thing called life. Everyone in the world has their own unique way of doing that. Some of you are artists and you share it with us in your music or in your paintings or in your photography or any of those things. Some of you are teachers and you do it by teaching the next generation, the current generation. Some of you are in the community and actually being in public office, or maybe you really want to be, but you're so afraid of coming out of your broom closet that you're like, no one would ever vote for me for city councilwoman. I promise you, post COVID-19, they fucking would. They are looking for people who understand how to navigate higher dimensional living. They are looking for people who are not afraid. The entire world is terrified right now, and we, as those who understand the energy fields, have a sacred responsibility to stop waiting around and seeing how it's going to affect our own fucking personal lives, and doing the work that's going to change the fucking world by learning how to command our energy, by becoming fearless in our own process of how do we constantly create over and over and over again. It's because we know that it's all a game. We understand, okay, I forgive myself for creating this really fucking awkward situation between me and my parents because of the fact that I just came out as bi, which I didn't, but I just was watching a TV show about it, so it just like came out. The example. And you can just sit there in forgiveness of however it is that they respond to that. Because what it is it's really a projection of you that can't accept yourself. So you take yourself from consciously living to recognizing, oh, that's a trigger. Let me go journal. Oh, I'm being triggered by them. To no longer ever being triggered by other people, because you're almost constantly, it's a process of self-triggering. You go through this process on a daily, weekly, monthly, like moment to moment, literally in the ever-present moment. How can I forgive myself for feeling anything other than joy and love and bliss? And it's the reason why we have so many divine feminine women who are associated with the characteristic of bliss, of joyful motherhood, of just no matter what sort of catastrophe hit their village, they were just blissed as fuck out. Because they really understood that while all of this stuff was happening, it was really just an illusion. It was really just a dream. They were really fully and totally supported by the universe. The higher they climbed in their spiritual ascension and their giving and their service to others, the more the universe rewarded them. The more they were able to connect back to source, to the point where none of their human needs were ever not met, because they were constantly in communion with the thread of life, that interdependent web that which we are all woven in. And they understood that threads that had been weaved in the past were eventually going to play out. The Norse word for fate, or not fate, the word should comes from a Norse word that actually means fate. So when we talk about how things should happen, we're talking about because of the things that have been done prior in this situation, I expect what should occur is, if I take a bunch of kindling and put it in if I dig a hole and I put rocks around it, and then I put some brush and kindling in the bottom, and a couple of littler logs on the top. And I take a piece of stone and I go like this and I make a spark. What should happen is that I've now created fire, right? That's what should happen because I've done all of the other things prior. So when you find yourself in situations where you're like, but I'm praying and I'm doing all these amazing things, like, why am I in this super hard time in my life right now? Why is it that my house isn't selling? Why is it that my business isn't booming? Why is it that my marriage is crumbling? Why is it that my kids are being total assholes? Why is it that I didn't get enough signatures on my petition to run for city council? What is going on? You're able to step back for a second and remember, wait, there's a lesson here. I can forgive myself for feeling ashamed or worried or guilty or anxious or anything, and instead I can look and find the lesson, so then I can move on because I still know that I'm connected to this divine mission of something bigger than me, a mission in which we no longer need war or famine or starvation or any of those lower frequencies of fear and scarcity and lack. We're moving past it. We have moved past it. And so many of us understand that we've moved past it, and yet we're not telling the masses because we're like, oh, the masses aren't ready. The masses aren't ready. The masses aren't ready is because you aren't doing enough work. You're not tapping in as constantly as possible and downloading and pushing in your knowing into the consciousness of everyone to have access to it. You're not serving enough. You're so worried about your own personal life that you've forgotten that you are here for a reason so much bigger than you. And when you tap back into that, you step into that and you authentically show up for it every single day, a new test will come to you. But you're no longer moving from the fool to the tower, from the fool to the tower, from the fool to the tower. You're moving from the tower to the world, and from the tower to the world. And you realize each time your world crumbles back to the tower, it's not going all the way back to the fool, because that foundation of who you are and how you serve and what it is you're doing is so fucking solid that you just allow your world to crumble and then you start again, because you are solid in your boundaries. You have impeccable standards. You have supreme integrity. You have relentless focus and discipline on what it is that you are here to do. And you know that when you are scattered and wobbly, that's the best time that you need to go find yourself an Olympic trainer, someone who's an energetic Olympian, someone who does this on a regular basis that you know is safe enough to hold you and to contain you while you blow up a few times, while you figure out what it is that is the next big step in your life. Because you know that anything going on in the microcosm of your life needs only to be forgiven and recognized for the lesson of what is it trying to teach you for the macrocosm giant lesson of your divine mission. Okay, let's read some comments, shall we? Bliss the fuck out. This is now my favorite phrase. Perfect. Okay, so when we're dealing with this true forgiveness, we can honestly start by a very simple process of we don't even have to fully forgive. Maybe we're like, no fucking way, I can't. Like, Caryn, you're too far out there. I know that eventually I want to get to where you are, but right now I just cannot connect to this idea that I can forgive my ex for all the things that he's done, or I can forgive my parents for all the things that they've done, or who I can forgive myself. Maybe you've been a very horrible person. Like, there's a lot of guilt to be had for those people that have stories that are maybe not the ones, like, they have skeletons in their closet. And one piece of living a very super conscious and authentic life is knowing that those skeletons in your closet, they're not skeletons, they're just a part of who you are. There is nothing that you should be ashamed of in your life, because they were all things that made you who you are, and you are absolutely a unique frequency. No one knows how to be you better than you, which is why when I am working with a client one-on-one, I'm not trying to change anything for them. I'm trying to let them see all the places that they're still covered. There's this old story about this this temple where for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years there was this golden Buddha, this giant golden Buddha that sat in this temple. And when there was an army that invaded and decimated everything, and the monks were barely able to recuperate. And over time, there was again this giant Buddha that was in the temple, and they go, and something happens hundreds of years later where there's an earthquake. And after the earthquake, the brothers are going around, the monks are looking around. He shines a flashlight on this Buddha that's always been sitting there for as long as he can remember, and something shines back at him. And he goes in there and he sees that there's a crack in this giant Buddha. And he goes and he spends the whole night uncovering it, and the more monks come and they look and they see that there's actually the gold Buddha statue that everyone thought had been rumored to have been taken by the invaders centuries before had actually been saved by being hidden, by covered in clay that hardened before the invaders got there, so that its most prized possession was covered underneath all this mud and clay. So clients who come to me often understand that they've already broken open parts of that, but there are pieces that they are still hiding in clay. They are afraid to actually shine brilliantly and to be this big, giant, luminescent being of sacred knowledge. There's a reason why you have the gifts and talents that you already kind of sort of play around with, but you're terrified of the level that you could actually reach if you fully tapped into it. And that's why you come to someone like me. Well, really why you come to me, why you learn to go from consciously living to super consciously living, where you learn that daily miracles are only available to you when you can forgive all of the sins that are really just a dream, because you're choosing to play this game of separation. And at any time you could reach a point where you recognize and remember that you're on this karmic wheel of illusion, and pop, you're immediately back into the formless oneness of God. So when we play the what if game, which for those of you who don't know, I'm doing a masterclass this week all about the what if game. I will make sure to pop that into the comments really quick for you. I'll talk about it really quick while I look for it. So the what if game masterclass that I'm doing, I'm having 3 different times so that people all over the world can get to it. It's not going to be recorded, so you'll have to pick a time that you can for sure commit to. And oh, where is it? Damn it. Sorry, guys. So the what if game is really all about your ability to play with your anxiety and your worries. So again, if you are afraid, you're like, Caryn, I just don't get it. Like, how can I forgive him? You start playing, well, what if you could forgive him? Like, what would it take for you to forgive that person? What kind of person would you be if you could be that forgiving? What sort of lightness would you be able to create in your life if you could forgive that person? Do you see what I'm saying here? Like, you can literally copy. Oh, no. You can literally take all of the, like, well, what if he's going to do this? You take all that negative energy, all of the, like, catastrophizing that you may already do in your life, and you start to spin it in the opposite direction. You start to say, okay, all those bad things could happen in my life, but guess what? My life is still worth living. So the first phase of the what if game is being able to recognize that your life is 100% worth living, that you absolutely are a free and sovereign being, that no one and nothing has power over you, that everything could be taken away in your life, that you could continuously look like you are losing on a societal standard, but you are good with you. And you are always a party wherever you go. And you are blissed the fuck out because you are serving in some amazing capacity. And when you're able to play in those timelines down in that way, you actually are playing out that energy and releasing it, so it starts to really mitigate that likelihood of those timelines even playing out, because you're allowing them to come to the surface by going through them through this what if game when you do the first half, which is downward. And then the second half is going upwards. It's when you've released all of that energy, all of those low frequencies. Again, this is when you start learning how to command, okay, I'm going to take all that trauma that I just released by thinking about all those negative things that could happen, and now I've neutralized them, but now I'm going to project that into what it is that I truly actually want. So like, what if I could have a $1 billion empire? What if I could have the most epic, legendary love of all existence that ended truly in a happily ever after, where we just evaporate into the ether when we're 300 years old and truly ascend. You can, like, what if I could become president of the United States? What if I could become an emissary or an ambassador to the intergalactic federation of light? What if I could astrally project my entire, like, not just astrally project, but completely bilocate my body to the Pleiades? You start opening that imagination back up to the curiosity of the child, because the what if that you're using already, it's the same curiosity that you had when you were a kid, but society taught you to be afraid and to be safe and to be in this cage. Okay, so we're going to talk about the what if masterclass for, that's all I'm going to say for now on the what if game. So what you're going to do is you're going to use this link right here. It's a free masterclass that I'm offering this week. There are 3 different times. Instagram, the link will be in my bio after this live stream. You will have access to that, and then there's a really amazing, crazy, awesome announcement that I'm making at the end of those, so make sure that you're there. And again, the replays will not be available, so make sure you're committing to a time that you can be there. There's even going to be different like Zoom links, because I really want this to be an intimate enough experience that I can have enough people on the screen that if they have questions, I can really talk to them. Sometimes it just gets way too many and you can't focus. So hopefully there are those of you who are really called, you're ready to step up into that space that is there for you. Does anyone have any questions right now for me on this topic that we were just talking about on true forgiveness? The practice of true forgiveness is super simple. It really is. I'm dreaming this. Whatever the negative thing that happens, you get into your kid is just a total asshole to you, and you like end up going into the bathroom with your Snickers bar, turning on the bath, and just like sobbing in the bathtub. You're able to say, no, I am dreaming this. I'm actually safe in the oneness of the all. I'm safe right now. I'm completely held and cared for by source, by God, by whatever word it is for the entity that is bigger, by your higher self, if that's as far as you can go. Maybe you still have a problem with God. It's fine. Everyone's got their stories. And you say, no, I'm safe. And I forgive myself for creating this illusion of sadness, of anger, of frustration, of guilt. And I choose love. I choose the Holy Spirit. I choose my higher self. I choose God in this moment. And I know that I am aligned in my highest path. And by doing this, you start to create this connection of your will with the divine will, where you start really connecting to those higher levels of who you are and how you can serve in the world, where you really truly understand that you are a fractal of God here in form, singing your own new song, which is meant to lead more people to remember who they are as a fractal of God in form, singing their own song. Do you see? We're just a ripple. We're just a wave. We're just a frequency. The fact that you're here and that you come and listen to this live stream means something. If you're someone who's ready to step up into that leadership position, to really live your life from a super conscious space, I really do invite you to come and join me in the masterclass this week. Pick one of the 3 times. They are really available so that the entire world can participate. Send me a direct message if there's something that I said today that resonated with you, that you want to know more about. If you're interested in what does it look like to work with me one-on-one, how can I help you in that transformation of truly bringing your message out into that world stage in a way that lovingly invites the rest of the population to wake the fuck up. Instead of having to go through all this pain and trauma, how can we lighten the load for them by doing the work ourselves, by making sure that we are energetically keeping up on our hygiene, that we are constantly emanating our own message, that we are embodying what it is that we would tell our own clients, what we would tell our own best friends, that we are being impeccable in our word, that we are supreme in our standards, that we absolutely in no way crumble on our ethics. Because we're constantly looking at them and we're constantly tweaking them and we're constantly calling ourselves out so that when other people call us out, we say, you know what, thank you. Thank you for letting me know that I am still projecting that part of me, and I will start doing the work to clean that up so that I no longer have those types of experiences. You no longer have the surprise bills. You no longer have the awkward fights. You no longer have these things in your life that cause the lower emotions to happen anyway, because when they do happen, you meet them with love. You don't meet them with anger. You don't meet them with sadness. You don't meet them with frustration. You meet them with thank you. I am so grateful that you are showing me an aspect of myself that is not in alignment with divine will of how I can serve in my capacity as a true energy worker, commanding the energy of this universe, choosing a path that is of my highest good because it's fun and because I can. And because there are zero fucking stakes and nothing matters at all, because I'm actually safe in the oneness of God. I'm actually safe at home right now, totally secure, and all of this is just a dream. So, thank you, everyone. Says true forgiveness is realizing what you thought happened didn't. Love to hear your perspective. Yeah, I love the work with Byron Katie. She's amazing. Do you recommend the What If Masterclass? Yeah, come to it, Chase. It's free. Do it. The Fearlessly Authentic Leaders, pretty much that founding membership is there, but everything is changing this week over. So all of that information is going to be coming out at the end of the masterclass. Actually, my entire brand is shifting and changing. I'm laying a lot of foundation down right now because next year is going to be starting to work on the foundation needed for my my campaign in 2022, and then more foundational run for my 2024 campaign. So a lot of what you guys are seeing right now is my cornerstone, the stuff that I'm giving for my grassroots movements, the things that are on that, the accessibility for everyone in the whole world to be able to access, to be able to have the ability to start to tap into it. And then I'm working with those high level clients so that they can step into their leadership, so I can really get all of my pieces in a row. So when I step into the presidency in 2025 during the inauguration, I have all of my allies already in place. So I love that you guys are all here for this foundation cornerstone piece of the empire that I'm building. I am so grateful for every single one of you. Chase, again, like shout out from Australia. You show up at 2 a.m. every Sunday. It's fucking amazing. You are a bright, beautiful star. Everyone else, Maya, I know that we met like a year ago. I love everything that you're doing. Like, honestly, my life is such a miraculous, blissful, amazing space to be in. And the fact that I get to share it with you and that I'm able to teach the method of my madness and how it is that I went from being a depressed suburban housewife who was suicidal and had fibromyalgia and absolutely thought the whole world was out to get me my entire life from the time I was a tiny little baby on, to now knowing with absolute certainty that I'm going to be serving as a high level ambassador to an intergalactic community by going through all these different stages of my life, including running and winning the presidency, it's insane to me, the transformation that's occurred in my life in really under 3 years, and really 2, and really every day. Every day you meet a new version of me, because every day I'm taking myself through the super conscious living process, the process of really believing that I could be more, that I could do more, that I can serve in a bigger way, that I can hold more energy, that I can command more energy to help more people recognize that they have every capacity to do it too. Nothing about me is different than you. We are made of the same stuff. We are one. We are the same. I am a fractal reflection for you of your capabilities, of your innate resources to the psychic realm, if you want to call it that, of this energy, this quantum field of entanglement of which we are all woven together. And that you can choose to either be pushed around because someone who's around you knows how to command the energy and you don't know how to command your energy, so you're kind of just like a fly in their web, or do you know how to turn yourself into a fucking spider and weave your own web? Because we're all entangled with each other. It's just who knows how to use the energy that's going to actually be manipulating other people's energy. It's not really manipulation, because the fact that you're not woken up to how to use your energy is also still a choice. Maybe not a conscious choice, but it's still a choice. Okay, perfect. Okay, I love you all. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Sorry for the glitches in the interwebs. Reach out to me if there's any questions, if you have anything in your life. I love to hear from you. I really am a real person. I always message back. It's not some bot on the other end. And I love you. Have a beautiful Sunday or Monday, wherever you are.